first of all, with Kodesh, and in order to really understand what this period of time is all about, I'm going to present a couple of questions from the parsha that we just completed, which is Rabbi. And Schwartz. You're not going to miss that call. And
is it Judah?
So the first question is as follows. We'll get a good context of what El is really all about. The first thing that we need to understand is that Moshe Rabbeinu brought Klal Yisrael to its position of being just able to enter Eretz Yisrael. There was a certain sequence of events that happened that was very, very important. And that sequence is a period of time that really bridges in the last year of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, but specifically there was a turning point in the summer, the last summer of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, right? Moshe's last summer, we could call it. It was a summer to remember. Like it was like summer of 42, whatever it was. Summer of 42. Not a good summer for Klal Yisrael. But Yaacov says, and that we all know that Moshe Rabbeinu went up in Rosh Chodesh Elul, the end of the summer, right after Labor Day, to Shemayim for a period of how many days? 40 days, which culminates in Yom Kippur. Now, the bookend part of that, the other 40 days, there's another famous 40 days of the summer, okay, which really dates back to the beginning of Klal Yisrael's time in the Midbar. And those 40 days are what? Well, we have the 40 days prior to Shavuos, right, where Moshe Rabbeinu, right after, again, it's all summertime, so everything in the summer, Sivan, June. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up, receives the Torah, comes down on the 17th of Tammuz, July, right? Breaks the loose, and then does not go back up until when? Right away, because he's got to get. So there's another 40 days, right? Until where we are, Tammuz. In Tammuz 18. What happened? He comes down on Tammuz, it's just with Tammuz, breaks the luchos, burns the Egel Hazah, correct? And then he goes back up, right? And he davens for 40 days, receives the forgiveness for Klal Yisrael, and then goes and gets the luchos after Hashem is not just forgiven Salachti Kidvarecha, which was on Tisha B'Av, correct? But it is going to be, because you see, the first year was Cheda Egel, the second year was already a Meraglim, and those two are bookended. So those two events are connected. Everything seems to be occurring in this summer. Also says B'nai Safsvar, in the last summer of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, the war of Sichon and Og took place in Elul. And after that, he starts davening non-stop for what? To be able to go into Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Be'es Hanan el Hashem be'es hahi. On that time, he began pleading to go into Eretz Yisrael. When was the Eis Hahi? In Elul. Right? That last Elul of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, probably, who knows if it was Rosh Chodesh Elul, through the last Yom Kippur of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, daven. And eventually the answer that he got was it completely no? It wasn't completely no. He could see it, but he couldn't experience it physically. So let's understand. What happened in that last year? If you really want to understand the Elul that Moshe had to receive the second Luchos, which was in the beginning of his career, you have to also understand what happened at the end. Because at the end, beyond the Luchos, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I don't want just the Luchos. I want to live these mitzvahs in Eretz Yisrael. That would have been the culmination of everything. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu suddenly think that he could actually accomplish this goal? Didn't Hashem say that the entire Dor Midbar has to die? It was very clear that Moshe Rabbeinu has to die. Miriam already died. Aaron already died. Elazar takes over. Hashem basically has closed the door on Moshe Rabbeinu in that generation completely, right? Why did Moshe, in this last El of his life, start to daven to go into Eretz Yisrael as if it were a real possibility? What changed? So, in order to understand this, we have to say another thing from the Bnei Yisrael. While this is all Zohar. Zohar says that in the realm of time, certain times have been redeemed, meaning that they are holy. And certain times of the year have not yet been redeemed. What that means that they're in the possession, so to speak. They are in the possession of the opposite of Kedusha. Okay, the opposite of Kedusha. Meaning the forces of the Yetzer Hara and the Satan predominate. So, for example, we have a halacha brought in Shulchan Aruch that during the Chodesh Av, right, Ra Mazla, it's a bad mazel, and if you have a court case, you should push it off until after the month of Av. You're not even supposed to go out and about, especially during the 9 days, because the Gemara says there's something called a ketev miriri. Ketev miriri means bad stuff going out there. Now you should know this past summer in America, there were some really, really difficult things that happened. You're aware of what happened? What happened? What's that? Well, that was a danger that was, thank God, we barely navigated that. They wanted to come here to slander Israel, which was a terrible thing. And thanks to President Trump, it didn't happen. The person in the world.
The parties did it, uninvited them.
Well, but they have. But did they do it on their own decision? If Netanyahu tells them to invite them, he's invited.
Yeah, well.
They were the technical people, because they had the jurisdiction by law, but they really had no power. It was only Donald Trump's intervention. Very interesting. But there were things that happened in America to American Jews that were very, very tragic. What happened? There were a number of
killings in Pittsburgh.
I mean, in this past summer. What?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Right.
Drownings.
And a lot of individual attacks on Jews in New York City. In New York City. And elsewhere. What?
There was swastikas on synagogue.
There was a swastika on which shul? Interestingly enough, for Moshe Feinstein's shul.
Yeshiva.
Tiferes Yerushalayim. Really, that from that place emanated most of the yeshiva life in America, Torah life in America began on the Lower East Side. It really did. It didn't begin in Manhattan, I'll tell you that much. So there was so much so that my kids were in camp, and one of the Rosh Yeshivas says not to take the kids to water parks because they just were afraid of anything happening. And when they did have to go already, they sent extra lifeguards. So it's a time perennial. So now, to top it all off, you have this hurricane heading towards where? Florida, where only everybody's parents have have an apartment. So it's been a rough summer. Tough summer. The months of Av and Tammuz are in the jurisdiction of Esav. They're not in the jurisdiction of Klal Yisrael. Certain months are very much in the jurisdiction of Klal Yisrael, such as, which months are? Adar, Nisan, Tishrei. Okay? But there are certain months that they're just not, they have this incredible potential, but like everything else that is powerful and has much energy attached to it, who wants it? The other side, what we call the low tov. The side of tov. So we say, what do you call a day, a holiday? We call it a yom tov, right? Okay, so there's tov and there's ra. Okay, unfortunately, Tammuz is a tkufa that's still a bad time for Klal Yisrael, of the worst time for Klal Yisrael, except that something happened. Yaakov Avinu did not allow his brother Esav, and always struggling with him, Yaakov is pulling him back, was able to take from these 3 months, Tammuz, Av, Elul was supposed to belong to Esav, until finally we get to Tishrei. That would have been a real disaster. A real disaster. Yaakov Avinu manages to tear away half of that time period. Therefore, from the 15th of Av through Elul was redeemed to the side of Tov. Now, let's think together.
How does that happen?
How did that happen in a spiritual sense? Well, if you really want to understand it, in Yaakov's life, it had to do with being in Lavan's home, assuming Esav's role, raising the children that Esav was supposed to bring into Klal Yisrael, and trying to hold that very difficult family together, right? Surviving Bilam / Lavan, who is the instigator of Amalek. Amalek does not operate in a vacuum. There always have to be the voices that, these voices, be very careful, are brilliant at one thing, making Ra look like Tov. And Tov look like Ra. So you take, for example, these nice ladies, lovely ladies, that wanted to come to Israel. What were they going to say? That Israel's Tov? Whatever about Israel they could say is going to be directed to the Ra, even if it's essentially Tov. Now this goes back to the original problem that mankind has had since then. Okay? Which is why the month of Elul is symbolized by, what's the mazel of Elul? A bitula, a kala. Okay? That's what it means. A bitula is a woman waiting to marry, who desires to marry. Why is that the month of Elul? Okay. So the Bnei Yissaschar says the word Isha and the word Elul are synonymous. Okay? Elul is all about women. It's only about women. Now, why?
Shechina.
The Shechina's coming back. That's one thing. And we're getting ready for a chasana. The chasana between Hashem and Klal Yisrael was broken on Shavasar B'Tammuz. That's Ra. It'll be reunited when? On Yom Kippur. Right? Which is a day of Tov and Simcha. And then we go into the Sheva Brachos week, which is what Sukkot is really all about. And the culmination of that is Shemini Atzeres. Shemini Atzeres, on a mystical level, represents that they're starting to have a family. Not only, she's not a Kala anymore, she's married, and she's expecting. That's what Shemini Atzeres is. You get the call, your daughter's having a baby, that phone call is Shemini Atzeres. Interestingly, in Parshas Re'eh, at the end, we have the recounting of the Shalosh Regalim, which appears in many places in the Torah. Usually when it appears in the Torah, such as Vayikra and Bamidbar, it talks about the karbonos that have to be brought, right? All the sacrifices. It talks about some of the observances, like not eating on Yom Kippur, right? And blowing the shofar. None of that appears in Parshas Re'eh. In Parshas Re'eh, there is no reference to Shmini Atzeres. It is left out. It's remarkable. There's no Shmini Atzeres. There's only Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, and it's said in a little different context. So I want to just come back to that at the end and explain from what we're saying exactly what this version of the Shalosh Regalim was really all about. Okay, so let's go back to the time context. So if Yaakov and Esav are battling over this period of time, it's the symbolic battle of Tov and Ra. Now the problem with Tov and Ra began with the first marriage. And particularly with the perception of Chava, the first woman. Because the Nachash Hainu, the Yetzer Hara, the side of Ra, induces her to eat from which tree? The Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. Okay? Why? How does he get her? So Rashi says an interesting thing. Rashi says that the Nachash comes to her, and this is what her response was. Vatera ha'isha ki tov ha'etz l'machal. Says Rashi, what do you mean she saw? She saw all along. Was she blind? All of a sudden she sees that the tree looks like it's tasty. V'hi taivahu la'einayim. Right? Her eyes develop taiva. Taiva is not a positive word. Taiva means what? A desire, a lust, right? But tochal, and v'nechmar ha'etz lahaskil, and the tree is good for yodei tov ra. What did the Nachash tell her? If you eat from this tree, you're going to know the secret of what's tov and ra. What really happened? Quite the opposite. The Nachash is always lying. He says you're not going to be able to distinguish between Tov and Ra. You will be able to be fooled by an internalized Yetzer Hara that what's good, what you think may be good, could be very bad. And what you think is very bad could be very good. That didn't exist before this incident. All right? No one could ever walk around and do something really evil and explain it to the world that it was good. All right?
But her image of what the tree was about wasn't true.
She believed the Nachash. That was the problem. The Nachash starts the ball off, always. The Nachash represents Amalek, represents Esav in his worst form, that he fell for it. We fall for it. Amalek is instigated. Amalek Esav is only a vehicle. He's not the problem, but he's the tool that's used. About him, we say he's the chosen one, and not anyone else. Okay? We spoke about this. This is really the primary struggle between the Christian church and the Jewish people. For centuries, they said, the younger will serve the elder. Who's the younger and who's the elder?
Yaakov's the younger.
Or the elder will serve the younger, right? Elder will serve the younger. So the simple meaning, straight talk, is that Esav will serve Yaakov. They say just the opposite, right? That the younger is the church, right? And they've thrown, and that the elder has been rejected. The Esav that's rejected to them is who? Is Yaakov. This is this incredible opposite illusion. The Tov becomes Ra, the Ra becomes Tov. It's exactly the problem. This is the problem that we confront. There's only one way to straighten out the mess. Hashem. That's correct. So it says Bnei Sasvar, the month of El, is a month where Hashem illuminates us so that we can open up our eyes and see that what we've been thinking is good is bad, what's bad is good. Yeah, okay?
It seems like there's the same relationship with Yishmael.
Similar, except Yishmael's a little different because Yishmael does have his own pathway to Hashem that was guaranteed by Avraham Avinu.
Well, but the people who claim to come from Yishmael don't seem to be on the same path as Yishmael himself.
Well, that's exactly the point. The problem with Yishmael is not Yishmael. The problem with Yishmael is when a ruach of Esav, the sword, goes to them. They're not people of war. Yet Saudi Arabia has a sword on its flag, right? When Muhammad came, these people who never conquered anything except a sand dune and each other, within short order conquered the world. How could that be? How could that be? Because it was part of, and it only took place during what Galut? Galut Edom. It's only part of the larger picture of Edom. You know why? Because who does Esav marry? After his first wives are rejected, he sees the first wives that Yitzhak and Rivka don't like them. They're clearly evil, so I've got to marry somebody that looks good. So he marries the daughter of Yishmael. He convinces Yishmael to give him his daughter. By the way, Yishmael dies immediately.
Oh yeah?
Yes. The self-same day, Yishmael dies, the night of the wedding, because really what it was a trap and a trick. That Esav knows that Yishmael has his own independent line of energy. Isn't that interesting? They have their own energy. Do you hear what I'm saying? From Hashem. An unlimited supply. Unlimited supply. Whereas Esav does not have an unlimited. Do you see unlimited supplies of oil? How much oil does Germany produce a year? Italy? France? Anyone? Belgium? The Netherlands? 0. They have 0. Their wealth is the wealth of Yerushalayim. But it's only temporary. Right? Their wealth is meant to serve Hashem and serve Klal Yisrael. But they see, they've been convinced that what's bad is good and what's good is bad. They're convinced that Jews are bad. That supporting the Jewish people are evil. Supporting Jewish people is an evil act. Wrong. Therefore, they need to support Iran or somebody who will harm the Jewish people. But why do they really care about Iran so much? Did you follow this? What happened just recently? This crazy guy, Macron from France.
Yeah.
First of all, I'll prove to you that he's crazy. Who did he marry?
A woman much older than himself.
He married a mother. Is he ever going to have children? No. He's a young, vibrant guy. He will never have children. I mean, for that alone, he's a nut job. And why is it a good thing to marry your teacher? He's completely messed up. He doesn't know what's good. There's nothing good about it. Lo tov ha'adam, what? About lios ha'adam. Now, he's the guy, more than anyone else in the world, that wants Iran to be included and forgiven and given billions of dollars. What's that going to do? Why will that be a good thing? In his mind, it's the best possible thing. Right? Why? On a deeper level, they're the enemies of the Jewish people. They're the ones that want to destroy the Jewish people. The Jewish people are essentially bad. Let's get rid of them. By empowering Iran, we attack the Jewish people vicariously without attacking them. Isn't that nice? I say like I'm doing good, but really I'm doing evil. Okay? And this is the problem. So now, Elul is the time where there is an illumination of or from Hashem that represents the fact that Yaacov took over this time period. The last 2 weeks of Av are prelude to Elul, They're part of the Elul experience. They're part of the 40 days. Now, let's take this one step further. What's the connection between Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur? The beginning of this time period, and essentially the end of that time period. Well, it goes forward to Sukkot, but really, if you think about Elul attaches to Yom Kippur, right? Tu B'Av attaches to Elul. That's one Tkufa, right? Well, two things happen on that day. The Gemara says, Lo hayu yom tovim liYisrael, k'chamishas asar ba'av b'yom Kippur. There were never days of Tov, right? What does Tov really mean? Seeing it. Tov is always associated with sight. Re'ei anochi. Let's listen to the first psukim of last week's parasha, right? Hold on. Go back to the beginning of the parasha. It says, Re'ei anochi nosen l'teichem hayom bracha u'klala. It's very clear. One is a bracha and one is not. And you're going to see it. The bracha is, you do the mitzvahs. The klala is, in lo tishma'u. Right? You're going to see it visually on Har Gerizim and Har Eval. Did you ever see Har Gerizim and Har Eval? You know what kills me? Who's controlling Shem? The Arabs. Who's controlling Har Gerizim and Har Eval? This is so sick. This is part of the great problem that we have. That we cannot, Jewish people do not have clarity that Torah mitzvos is the Tov. And other pursuits are not the Tov. Because we don't even have that place of clarity. You understand what's going on? Shem is the place of clarity. We've lost it. Completely in the dark. In the dark. Alright?
When was it a place of
Wait,
clarity?
look how it's described. Halohema be'ever liyahayardin acharei derech mevo hashemesh. That's how they're described. And Hashem, and it says you got to see it now. Let's go back to the word Tov for a second. Lo hayu yom tov l'Yisrael. The best days of Tov in the Jewish calendar are the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. What happened on that day? Shidduchim Elul, the woman waiting to marry. Literally. What does she wear?
White.
A white dress, right? Good guy, bad guys. The good guys wear the white. The bad guys wear the black. They're all Tov. They're all Tov. What do we say about getting married? Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov. Okay, wait a minute. There's another pasuk, however, just the opposite. What does it say? Roa Ania Seisha, Mar Mimaves. So the Chavetz Chaim says, there's a Gemara that says you go over to a chassan a couple weeks after he gets married and you say to him, Matzah or Motzah? Wait, well, how's it going? Is it a Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov? Things are going well? Or is it a Motzah Anias Isha Mar Mimaves? What's your experience? It's Lashon Hara. It's like, you can't ask that question. You can't ask that question. So he said it's not a question. It's Musar. Notice which word appears in the second sentence. Motzeh ani. Ani. If it's about you and your interest and what you think is good, it's going to be Mar Mimaves. If it's matzah, you found her like you found a lost object, the thing that Hashem wants me to have and my purpose in living, then it's going to be Tov. So it's a Musar thing. Are you behaving yourself as a good husband? Are you behaving yourself? Are you being ani? Are you being an ani? Are you focusing on you and your gratifications? And or are you prizing her like a lost object? Which one is it? That's the answer. Okay? Now, the very first time the word appears in the Torah, the Vilna Gaon has a principle. The first time the word appears in the Torah is its essential essence. Okay, so where does the word Tov appear first? Vayar es ha or Kitov. So Tov is associated with or. You see it again. Re'eh unknown. Clarity. Clarity. In the dark. When you're in the dark, you're stumbling over things. You know, lifnei iver lo titein michshol. You keep stumbling. You keep hurting yourself. You keep making mistakes. Ra is associated with Laila, Choshech, darkness. Right? Ruach Elohim or Chefetz Al-Pnei Hamayim. So Elul, and specifically Tu B'Av, is a time where the light goes on. That's why it's the day of Shidduchim. Okay, now, let's take this a step further. The Gemara in Tainus says that there were all kinds of women there, right? Now, they all wore the same white dresses, and they had to borrow from each other. So it couldn't be what's the most expensive dress now? Give me a name of a designer, the most expensive designer. What?
We've lost it.
What?
We've lost it.
You lost it all. Not relevant. Okay, fine. For men, it's Armani. I don't know what it is for them. So you got the Armani suit. No, you're gonna give it to that poor girl who bought a white something in the Merkaz over here.
Brings down all
One
the
of these
barriers,
stores.
like tribes are not who they are.
Correct. And it just breaks every barrier. And yet, women don't stop there. They go further and they start saying things to remind the men not to put barriers.
Wasn't this when it broke the two tribes wouldn't marry from each other?
Correct. Very good.
And
The 15th of Av, five things happen. Okay. Outside. So the tribes
There it
were
is.
where?
Third to the end.
Thank you. You got a good eye. See, Ray, I know. Got the oar. See the line. Okay, here we go. So Gemara at the end of Tainus speaks about what happened on that day, on what happened on Tu B'Av. Okay.
Sadie Hawkins.
It was the Jewish Seder Hawkins Day, yes.
We know who that place is in Israel.
We know there.
Oh, really? Where they want?
Where they have
At that
had
place.
yeah.
What?
Wow.
We were
it was in
actually at the
Yerushalayim. Was it
place
somewhere in
where-
Yerushalayim?
No.
Right? No?
No, we
It's
were
the
on the
Marriott
road
area.
where it actually.
Sure.
So Yom Kippur was the other day that they did this.
And where we wear white.
Where women went out, wear white,
Men wear
and
white.
also you'll see the following declarations to break down the barriers. Here's it says, the things that happened on Tu B'Av. Among them was that the Jews were allowed to marry, and Hoshea ben Ella removed the barriers that the Jews could go to Yerushalayim, so the northern tribes were finally allowed to go to Yerushalayim from the time of Yerovam ben